Hey guys, how's it going, Copernium? So one of the things in the Hearthstone scene that I missed when I was in Hawaii and all that is the DreamHack Summer or the DreamHack Sweden event. I was invited to cast, but because I had already planned a trip to Hawaii and it was fairly important that I don't cancel it, I ended up not casting, not going, and I found out while I was there a few of the things that went down. A few of the things that went down were pretty interesting, and they have fermented just a little bit recently. Fun things come into light, and gives me an opportunity to think and talk about some interesting things that you guys get to realize too. So what happened was, there are a few spoilers. The player that ended up winning the event is RDU. And he's done pretty well in other tournaments as well. He's a very good player. Clearly you have to be to win an event like this. Hearthstone is a game of luck, but luck, doesn't always pull through. Not when you have to win so many games and beat so many opponents consecutively. Anyway, so in the final game, RDU had someone on his friends list message him what was in his opponent's hand. And a lot of posts came up on Hearthstone Reddit. In fact, more than I've ever seen about anything. Pretty much every single post was about this, that RDU had cheated in the finals of DreamHack Sweden. And, what's to be done, what's going on? Everyone is like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Well, in the end, RDU beat his opponent 3-0 in the final, and, it was pretty much just whatever. And with the way that I see it, it's not something you can actively prove given the information that we've seen. So to try to prove it, to try to make the case that RDU, did in fact cheat, and that would pretty much have to come down to him asking his friends to message him what was in his opponent's hand. You would need some kind of real proof to show this. Otherwise, you look pretty foolish, in my opinion, to try to state this fact. Because, I've had people message me really stupid things in tournaments when I was at ESGN, for instance. Hearthstone is a game that a lot of big companies like DreamHack have tried fairly hard to put together a type of format. And within this format, they kind of have to, figure out what's good, how it's going to work, and there's going to be a few things that slip through the cracks. In the end, it is ultimately the fault of the tournament setup, the way they have it ruled. So they have to state that you have to be somewhat responsible for this. So you have to state that if you in any way seem to be receiving messages regarding information on your opponent during the game, you have to be disqualified, or you cannot have people on your friends list, if you're to participate in this event. So whatever has to happen, in the end, probably Blizzard will make some D&D feature. But ultimately, it is the fault of the tournament, but you can't really blame them too much. I mean, this problem hasn't happened before. If in the next DreamHack they have another big Hearthstone tournament and this happens again, then yes, you can really point the finger at them. But I doubt that will happen. I think those will go pretty smoothly. And all in all, in my opinion, things went down just as they should have. Some people overreacted, but in the end, RDU was not disqualified. He was given the trophy. There was no direct proof that he cheated. And for the most part, people, when they talk about this thing, there is no real proof as of yet to indicate this fact. So why bother talking about it? Really good player, Hearthstone, won a pretty prestigious tournament, and that's pretty much the end of it for me. However, why are we talking about it today? Well, that is not the end of it for our good friend Reynad. Now, I'll talk about why I think this is going on, in just a second, but basically just to get the facts out there. Reynad has stated a few things, and I'll put it in a link underneath the video because it's quite elaborate. I don't really want to just read a thread for you guys, but basically he is absolutely positive that RDU cheated based on the following circumstantial evidence. The first piece is that RDU mulliganed, decided to keep a fan of knives against an aggro warrior as a miracle rogue, and this is typically something you never do, I suppose. So he thinks that he heard the crowd or he heard the casters, and he did this by deliberately unplugging the headphones that make the environment soundproof, which all the participants in the tournament had to use. So essentially he thinks that RDU had an unfair advantage, knowing what other people were saying in the crowd, and he causes himself. And the other point that he tries to really nail is that RDU has been known to cheat in a prior tournament in the EU versus China, the 2P tournament, in fact the one that I casted. Specifically that other Romanian players say that he was on Skype with other people when he was participating in the tournament, so there was like a group play. Many people were playing essentially on his account in the tournament, and I believe that does count as cheating, but again, it is fairly circumstantial, and saying that he cheated in one tournament and that this one is directly his fault as well, this is an assumption you have to make. This is not really proof. It's circumstantial, that's why I referred to it as such. So in light of these things that Reynad thought was true, he challenged RDU to a tournament, 1v1, and Reynad just thinks he is the better player, I suppose, and he thinks he will, people think that he thinks that he will show the world that he is the best Hearthstone player by beating RDU in a best of 7 or whatever it was, and he challenged him, and he said that if RDU wins, Reynad will give him $10,000 again, and if Reynad wins, if RDU loses, RDU has to donate $10,000 to wherever Reynad chooses, and he has to hand over the glorious trophy that was presented at the recent event at DreamHack Sweden. So, this is all really ridiculous, and it was put into light from two notions. The first, that the manager of Reynad's team, Frodan in fact, made a statement that Reynad doesn't really know exactly what he's talking about on a few points, and essentially in the end he's very brave for speaking his mind in such a public audience. And yeah, no comment on that one. The second point is that the first point of circumstantial evidence turned out not to be true. The fact that RDU overheard the commentators or whoever in regard that he was playing against an aggro warrior on his rogue turned out not to be true, because the casters said that he was playing against an aggro warrior after he had already locked in his decision to keep the fan of knives in his hand. So if he did in fact have his headphones deliberately unplugged so that he could overhear the casters and gain additional information, it wouldn't have helped him in that case. So yeah, that point out of two circumstantial evidences turned out not to be true. But regardless, Reynad made some kind of like new thing for like $1,000 or something, because I suppose he sees that $10,000 for someone who's 20 years old living in Romania, that's a lot of money. And to play for it for such a frivolous thing that another player tries to claim your victory is just so ridiculous. And it's pretty much ridiculous sums up just this whole thing. But what is fairly interesting is that, obviously nobody is going to take this shit seriously, but people are talking about it. People are talking about, how Reynad is doing this, how Reynad is doing that. So what's really going on is Reynad, he's just trying to push his name out there as much as possible. He might be a little bit salty because, well, he didn't end up winning the tournament. In fact, he ended up getting knocked out by RDU in, I believe, the semifinals. And, he just wants people to talk about what's going on. In the end, this means absolutely nothing, but I thought it was pretty hilarious that someone would publicly go to such a great extent to, trash talk someone else on the interwebs. And in the end, I see this as comparison to game mechanics. So in my opinion, less likely circumstance that RDU did in fact cheat, he was using the mechanics of the tournament very cleverly, and as such, you know, he can't really be disqualified. He did win the tournament. He may have won anyway, but, you know, that's how it goes. Sometimes the exploits, that's what it's all about. And in the end, he won it. That's all there is to say. If you challenge that, you're doing it deliberately to look like a fool publicly, or you're probably just a bit foolish. So, cool stuff, interesting stuff. Hearthstone drama, it's pretty rare, and it's pretty fun for me to see. So I hope you guys enjoy it at least as much as I have. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.